once when I first entered the subject, it was all under the rubric of information warfare. Okay, but now the terminologies have become much more precise and much more granular because technology is evolved quite a bit, and our understanding. Like I realized when I was initially in it, I never thought that information warfare. I used to think was propaganda and psyops in the cyber domain. But that's just barely a 10, 15 years back. But with this advent of the smartphone and wearables, etc., for the first time, I realized there is a loop. It is not only that they're influencing you; they can also sense whether it's influencing you. And if you look at the literature on video, heartbeat, that phone or any of your ICT can sense your heartbeat. They've got a lidar in it. They can sense your heartbeat when it quickens, when your pulse rate quickens, your micro expressions. Okay, so to that extent, I still wouldn't say that India has understood there is cognitive warfare and that it is influencing the political process. That's something which we have been working on to make people understand, because if we had understood this, we should have pivoted some time back. But now with the rupee facing headwinds, okay, I'm hopeful now because no one wants the money to get lost. Indians are, if nothing else, they may not have a strategic this, but they're very money conscious. And I can today tell you that the rupee loss, to a large extent, as per my research, is orchestrated. Okay, and it is bound to happen. That's a way, nature of the world, and it is for us to defend ourselves. So if that is a reply, Sindoor, I don't think is it came into space that the feeling came into the establishment. Hey, we did the kinetic better than them. We dominated the escalation phase of it, and we showed the whole world that okay, the destruction which was done, but seemingly the whole world is not buying into it fully, and the realization has happened that we've lost the narrative part of it, the cognitive part, because the platforms are not us. Finally, it's the platform and the algorithms which decide what goes viral and what doesn't. Till date, I think our political establishment has been thinking that by creating sock puppet this or many people tweeting or commenting. No, it's a platform. The platform is king. They can, take it up a notch or bring it down anytime they want. Battlefield shaping has been predicted by Sun Tzu almost 2,300 years before, when he correctly said that victorious armies win before entering the battlefield, and defeated armies enter the battlefield and seek to win. So battlefield shaping has always been there. And in this cognitive phase of it, it is absolutely necessary. So if you look at the literature of when the Americans created this internet, when the Snowden revelations came out, how did the Chinese protect their domain? How did they become a manufacturing economy, etc.? Or when they are saying that digital Silk Road, these are all battle shaping. Okay, pushing brands, pushing products. So it's a persistent. I've called neologism. I've brought out along with General Huda. We call it the persistent unpeace. Okay, there's a persistent. Competition is the nature of the Homo sapien. We compete with each other. We compete with as societies. We compete with, that's the nature of this. And nations definitely compete. And today that competition is all about dominating the infosphere. So it is dominated by powerful products, the advertisements, etc., and which you have around you. So if you have 24/7 smartphone listening to you, if you have many other devices, if you've got wearables, that is shaping the battlefield. That particular data is not available to a nation like India, which is not into the manufacturing space. Unless your products become this, we saturate our markets, we go abroad, then we also will start sensing that. Today, we are totally blind. If if you look at divided emperor, which was practiced since ancient times and became a science in colonial India when the British was ruling. So you cannot manufacture a totally new, they used to exploit existing divisions. So as a home person, what we are is, since the time we are born, we acquire a certain identity, which is linked to our ethnicity, our religion, our caste, our nation, everything. These are all multiple layers of identities which we have.
Right.
And in that interpersonal, or intra-community, an AI can correctly, understand a fault line. So till recently, in fact, even 10 years back when we used to have the debate, people were of the opinion that India is too vast and too varied for everyone to map it out. But that was before the advent of AI.
Right.
Today, I can bet that the actual sentiment of the population is better, analyzed and understood by the AI rather than by any local political leader. He will not have that sort of an accurate, mapping what an AI today can have. So definitely, this is something which we need to study. It's central to conflict. Because finally, if you go back to the Clausewitzian principle of on war, that a war is a continuation of politics by other means, it's all the population, what the population discerns, what is their sentiments. It definitely affects. And Sindoor, that way, is a classic example where the political mandate changed. Once initially they felt that that social media put it that we had started losing. Immediately the political mandate changed. Because for the politician, he entered the war for a certain purpose. He definitely could not afford a, defeat. And the mandate changed, and immediately, the armed forces reacted, and we did kinetically win it. But the narrative phase of it, we did not. So to that extent, yes, it's all happening. The foreign hand definitely is there. That's the nature of the world. Now, let me show you two examples. Okay, one is Sri Lanka and the other is Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So it is very clearly there was an orchestration via social media, but for that foreign hand to appear, someone has to sense that the sentiment has changed. Okay, and that sensing is all purely data and social media. They are the ones who come to know what is virality potential. So in her 15-year-old rule, could Sheikh Hasina have been taken out in the first 5 years by any social movement? No. They had to wait that 15 years for things to change and things to, likewise for the Rajapaksa. Okay. So if you look at Indira Gandhi also, in a honeymoon phase, there was never talk of a foreign hand. The foreign hand was still present, but the foreign hand had to wait for circumstances to change. Okay, so to that extent, I clearly say that there is a foreign hand without doubt, because even for small nations, nations are always competing for influence in those small nations. Now, for a nation like India, it's such a humongous prize, depending on who controls the destiny. Definitely, there are bound to be multiple foreign hands. But having said that, the wise ruler has to, calculate and not give enough political space for the foreign hand to manifest. The spark is something which, everyone, it's a story. You wait for the correct time and that story, okay, when suddenly things, turn. This is something which I don't think at this point people can predict, but they can look for the location and then try, different sorts of stories. That's what political movements are all about, right? So that story, how it will do is purely, I don't think a machine can still sense the story. There are too many factors for that story to, come. But underlying, friction, the fog of politics, let's put it, paraphrase Clausewitz, the fog of politics is such that after some time, there is bound to be discontentment, okay, with any regime. And that's what democracies do. They give an alternative for people to breathe rather than plan for revolutions. Now, this particular thing, but then people have also understood that's also a weakness of the democracy, that people can, using social media and this sentiment sensing, which is a loop, okay, they can sense, they can see this, they cannot hugely shift this, but incrementally, populations, this can be shifted because each and every person is unique. That AI can sense that this person is consuming certain things. These are his triggers, and that's in small nudges in a loop. Definitely, sentiments can slowly be shifted. Okay, and at one particular point, I'm sure that data exists with nations which have that. Anyone who had the data of how it was orchestrated in Sri Lanka or how it was orchestrated in Bangladesh, or for that matter, Nepal, these are all case studies, small case studies. But India being a continental-sized nation with so much of ethnicities, it's a much bigger lab. The Homo sapien, for his cognitive apparatus, the story is always centralized around a hero or an anti-hero. Let's look at one of the classical revolutions of all time, the French Revolution, Bastille. Okay, let them eat cake if they don't have bread. We don't know whether Marie Antoinette actually said that, but that's the center of that movement, right? It led to so much of, the anger upsurge was so much. Okay. Now, yeah. So even all these movements which you said, there were icons were they really icons? Because those icons seem to have, where is Anna Hazare today? Nowhere. Okay. So at certain points in time, some people can become a symbol. It can be orchestrated. It can be financed. It can be shaped in such a way. And it can be sold. PR is all about that. No, the PR, the whole study of, if you look at climate change, you look at the sort of icons which have been created by just PR, because climate is definitely changing. It's an anxiety, but to create that icon, people do. Likewise in India, okay, or for that matter in Bangladesh, or any of these places, the personal story which leads to sudden upsurge in emotion. Okay, that, if I still don't think there is a magic wand, but people seeing the whole thing can shape it without doubt. The literature, you have already mapped it out, which is prevailing. But what you missed out is a part of the platform wherein the literature is not there, because that is very well hidden. Okay. A little bit of that came when Twitter, because of the Trump and the Republican Democratic fight which was going on, Twitter was exposed as having things which can make things viral, which can reduce virality, etc. So platform is key. But other than the platform, it takes decades to create, interest groups. Okay, people invest into groups. They shape the environment over decades. For example, in Afghanistan, okay, when the Taliban was there, we were backing the Northern Alliance. Now, seemingly, we have some coordination. So these are all things which have happened over decades. Likewise, there will always be stories and ethnicities and stories which will tell certain groups, okay, these are friends, these are divisions. Like, you take a look at Pakistan, we immediately can map out their, ethnicities and nationalities and the, rifts which are out there. So intelligent nations will always invest in multiple, of those groups. They will maintain contact, and that contact can be multifarious. Okay, it can be business contacts, it can be diplomatic contact, it can be religious contacts, it can be NGOs shaping the battlefield. Okay,
right.
Along with all those physical things, the information environment also gets to play a role. I hope that's an answer. It's a layered answer. It's not a simple answer, but this is at the center of statecraft in the 21st century. When you map out a nation, there is something called the human terrain analysis. Okay, human terrain would be, okay, this is one nation, this is a nationality, this is These are the ethnicities which are prevailing over there. This is the majority, these are the minority. Okay. And different this. These are the major religions. These are their fault lines. What are the historical fault lines which are there? Where can we play it up? This is how you map in any battle. That's how you just map out the whole map, the terrain. Okay. Then you see, okay, what are the political issues? What are the social issues? What are the religious issues? What can be played up? Who is standing for what? These are all inherent in any person's mind space. Okay. When we stay in a society, we've got different identities, like I say. Identities are core. Finally, the identity politics is because when you're competing, finally, the narrative is such that you will start identifying yourself. And in India, especially, we are a nation for almost 2 centuries. We have been a laboratory for the British, okay, to play up divide and rule narrative. If you really think, how did they do it? Okay, let me be very practical. I just saw a small little clip today morning that someone has posted in Maharashtra. There have been two groups. Okay, one wanted to sacrifice a goat, the other wanted to get a pig, sacrifice a pig. Now, if you look at the riots of India for the last 2 centuries, if you study, you will realize it follows a pattern. And there is this old police officer in Kerala who came on this. I heard, he's from my school. His son was 1 year junior to me, and now this old gentleman, he says the job of the police, the CID, was to ensure that there is money is paid to the mullah, the money is paid to the pujari to preach against each other. Okay. Then its orchestration is usually by the CID itself, cutting the head of a cow and putting it into the temple, or so that's how it is done. Today it is done much more subtly. So, and in a poor nation like India, a little bit of money, people are ready to do, people are ready to take up causes. People are ready to, so the foreign hand definitely exists. So if I had written in a monograph, almost, I think about now 6-7 years back, I said, bring in the Foreign Agents Registration Act, bring in a lobbying act. Why are you, preventing that from happening? Rather than pointing fingers, these are things which are existing globally. How are other nations taken it? They have brought in a Foreign Agents Registration Act. They brought a lobbying act. Why have we not done it? When things start turning against you, pointing at a foreign hand, proactively tackle it. Firstly, we exist in a larger global order. There is an international order. There is people call it superpower, hegemon, different power groups, etc. They're all competing for an advantage. And why is this particular time so crucial is because the previous global order was built on at the end of the Second World War, the Bretton Woods Agreement, the US dollar. Now that has changing, that's crumbling. And this is time when big powers, the global powers, will compete with each other to carve out the next global order. So there, politics is a high price. Who is the government at that time? What can we get them to cause them to do? There is an opposition, there is a government. So they negotiate. They are always trying to, pressurize multiple this, get concessions. That's how societies do. You think of nations as clubs, very well organized clubs which are competing. India is not such a very good club which has managed to get a larger chunk for its population, is how I would put it. But if you look at the global power, that is the US and China, they are competing for a larger chunk of the pie to protect their own populations. And that larger piece of the cake is going to come from nations like India. We are one of the largest slices of the cake. Okay. So if you look at it from that perspective, how do you protect that? If war is politics by other means, then you look at what is politics. Politics in a democracy is all about the electoral vote and how they, come out. So how do you ensure that battle shape can be shaped sitting in a foreign country? Okay, can I do it in this way so that political power is shifting and he's not so consolidated, so he feels weaker, my position becomes better? Can I, at that time of the election, then go and sit and have a friendly chat with him and tell him, okay, we will back you, but I want this done. Can you sign this particular treaty? Can you get this law passed? Can you ensure so-and-so is appointed in so-and-so different places? That's how negotiations are done globally. So it's a constant competitive environment for a competitive advantage. So what the population needs to do firstly is you cannot leave all this, like they say in a democracy, by electing leaders, they be from the parliament, there are government servants. The best place is an active, informed citizenry who can create pressure. Otherwise, interest groups will just eat you up. In India, unfortunately, that active, majority of population are hand to mouth. 80% are on a dole. Okay,
Right.
it's just a very small percentage which pays attention, and that particular percentage of people are dependent on foreign economic interests. Okay,
Right.
that's the bane of India. Okay, when you say that, like I sit in Bangalore, and Bangalore is all about the ITS industry. Everyone eats out of that. Who is the ITS industry? Who is it servicing? They are more bothered about daily life. They are not thinking the nation. They can't think even 1 year ahead. The nation's plan 100 years, 200 years ahead. That sort of thinking doesn't come. And the politician is on the election beat. He's only thinking of the next election. No, who do I? So we need, like, one thing we can do is, which I've been trying to say is, I have seen a lot of think tanks in India. All of them are dependent on foreign money. Okay, or foreign funding or foreign patronage, let me put it, or some business house patronage, and the business house itself is dependent on foreign, so there it comes. And what about our national think tanks, which are funded by the government? Because the bureaucrat and the politician wants control. He holds the purse strings, and that means that entire think tank they just produce nothing, because that director of the think tank, his only thing is to ensure that he stays on the chair, and there is a government. So you need endowments, and you need free, make it independent, and people can think. It is not Indians are inferior to anyone, but the conditions for free thinking and fair thinking and independent thinking doesn't exist in India. So is that a reply? So those are the things which concerned citizenry should take care. They should concentrate on. They should ensure that these are the places from where good ideas come, including the, you look at the newspaper industry. People have told me, so many journalists have said the only free, independent, this was Indian Express during the time of Ramnath Goenka. This is 1.5 billion people. In 75 years, one Indian Express at that time under Ramnath. That means what sort of society are we? Okay, so that's a reply. Maybe Chakra News can do something. They can come up with, or are you dependent? Are you flush with funds where you can ignore everyone and say, no, this is the truth. Let me, Satyameva Jayate is what our national slogan is. Let me stick to Satyameva Jayate. That doesn't exist. So that's what we need to concentrate on. When 10 years back, I said we need indigenous products, etc. I stay in a society and I have my neighbors. Most of them are in the ITS industry. The first thing is, what about our jobs? We are all dependent out there. I told them, what about your children's jobs? Are you thinking 10 years hence? A lot of them remember that statement. And they now realize what I said was true. Okay. So the ability to foresee it is and think beyond your current is what is needed. I also saw a recent clip by the founder of IDSA, Mr. Subramaniam, the father of our sitting foreign minister. He clearly says that the Indian elite are only worried about themselves. They don't think about the society or the nation. Now, I'm not questioning his wisdom. I'm not saying everyone is like that. But if that old man at that particular point of time had to come on TV and say this, he must have witnessed multiple things. It's not that other nations, when I study other nations and how they have come up, when you become so rich and you become like a robber baron, they at least contribute back to the society by saying, here is endowment which I'm going to set up and this is what I'm going to do for this nation. India has got tremendous number of billionaires, but are they thinking as a nation? Or I don't know. A lot of billionaires seems to have already taken foreign citizenship. The children have taken foreign citizenship. So that is a concern. Okay, for a civilized nation which is thinking ahead, finally okay, your identity is linked to how your nation performs, which you can see in the US. I find a lot of the people who have been there, who have become millionaires, they're planning to come back. They're planning to make townships here in India and come back. And when I ask them, they say, we don't want to be a second-class citizen in a foreign land. Okay. That's the reason we are planning to come back. So that consciousness should come. In China, that consciousness is because of one-party rule, authoritarian. But do we need to pivot to an authoritarian one? No, we are a democracy, and the nature of Indian society is that we need to be a democracy because we are so many ethnicities, unlike Chinese, which are 95% Chinese. So if that be so, then people need to think. You grant you ensure the wealth goes back to the next generation, but at least put some part of it away, for the nation. That's what I would say is, as a thinking nation, people should do.